Wonderful. Okay, so session 2. How are you feeling? How did you go with your food journal? What do you feel? What connections do you feel that you made by writing it down before I'll go through the connections that I made?
Okay. I feel okay. I'm still having some bloating and, like I wrote in my journal, some other symptoms. It's really hard to tell what. So I'm not always like very, very bloated all the time. It's usually like twice a month around my period or when I'm ovulating for like a week at a time. So I don't know if right now it's like in between. So I'm definitely bloated, but I'm not like, it's not bad, like the 6 months pregnant stomach right now. But I'm definitely bloated a little bit, or not a little bit. I would say like a medium amount. And it's so hard for me to make the connections because I'm waking up bloated. So I'm never like de-bloating in the morning. And it's like, I can't tell if it's a food that's bothering me or it's like, but I can tell when I eat and it gets a little worse, it doesn't get terribly worse, but I haven't felt like my stomach's been normal in so long that I don't feel like I'm starting from scratch, So, I mean, I have seen that I'm having a lot of burping after each meal. And so, and I usually, and my gas hasn't been terrible, which is good, but, I do have some of that. And then, I wish I do have it right here actually. And then
your journal.
I'm not sure if right now, I'm like, it's been about a week and yesterday I didn't feel so great. So I'm wondering if the die-off is starting, to hit. And today I didn't feel super great. I felt nauseous this morning and just like, I've kind of had brain fog the last 2 days. It's kind of weird, but I don't know. It could just be anxiety or whatever, but it feels like the left side of my body is almost like inflamed. Like I have like low level, like burning kind of sensation, almost like a fibromyalgia kind of pain. I've had this before after I got really sick in December. It was my whole body though, just like, and that accompanied, I also had joint pain at that time, pretty bad. But it all went away once I started taking a thyroid medication. So I thought it was just that, but I've been experiencing it kind of just like all along the left side of my body, and then my left hip is really hurting. My right hip kind of started hurting today, but I don't really feel it as much now. I actually feel a little bit better tonight than I did a few hours ago. So I don't know. I feel like I'm perking up at night.
Okay. In terms of your energy, in terms of your digestion?
What was that?
In terms of your energy or in terms of your digestion, or both?
In terms of energy, instead of just being so exhausted and just, being on the couch from like 6 to 9, I feel like I can actually do some stuff and get the kids in bed. And, so, I mean, there's just some nights when I'm just so tired and I just have to go to bed. So that's been kind of nice. What else?
I find if people tend to get that second wind in the evening, so there's like different stages of the doctors don't like to use the word adrenal fatigue, but it is.
Right.
You think of like our adrenals as like a little rechargeable battery, like on our iPhones. So you plug it in, you can recharge, and it wears down, like with kids or with the stress of all this or having a busy work day or whatever it is. This can wear down our adrenals, and then we can recharge it with rest and with the right herbal medicine and with the right foods. So sometimes when you get that second wind at nighttime, it can be that you're into like that sort of wired tired stage of adrenal fatigue. And then so the first stage is kind of when you maybe start to get a little bit faster and you find it really hard to shut off. And then the next stage is you start to feel that you're a bit wired, but you can't relax. But then if you stay up too late, you get a second wind. And then the third one, you start to get tired pretty much all the time. And then the fourth stage is this like your kaput. And so then
Right.
that's kind of like the last 5%. And then people get chronic fatigue syndrome. And it's really hard to come back from there. So I don't feel you that bad, which is good news. And so if you stay above that bottom 5%, it can be easier, but frustratingly slow sometimes to kind of come back from there.
Okay.
So when the energy extra arrives, that's what that one does. So it's like an adrenal tonic. And then if you down here and you want to get to above here, so say this is the baseline level, you want to support your adrenals until you get to about there, and then you have that space to kind of bounce back from. So that if you're kind of flying high and then you have a busy day, or the kids had ballet and horse riding and softball, and you're like ding 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 ding, it won't just knock you on your feet. You might just fall back a little bit, but you'll still have that bit to fall back to.
Right.
Perfect. So all this sort of stuff takes time, and you'll get there. So this is just the first sort of week where doing like the food journal has given me more insight into your body, and now I can make more specific recommendations based on that. So I would like to go through this one with you to see what I kind of saw from it. So the first thing that I noticed was not too much variety. So
I know.
it's okay. It comes. We've got so much time. This is just starting from, and I'll be teaching you as you go through. So there's no stress. There's no whatever. It's just this is kind of what I'm observing. So I find that it's typically easier for someone to digest smaller amounts of more things rather than bigger amounts of less things. Okay. So say instead of having a cup of carrots, it could just be like 2 baby carrots, but then also some green beans, and then also 1 asparagus spear, and then also something else. So you end up with a quantity of food on your plate. So you're not eating a mountain. I think if anyone when they first come to see me, if they try and eat like a mountain of veggies, it's just going to be too much, because like the fiber is the indigestible part of the plant food, and that's the one that tends to feed the bacteria, which is what we want when it's in the large intestine. But when we're dealing with SIBO, we want to get it out of the small intestine. So slow and steady absolutely wins the race. You don't need to go fast. It's all good.
Right.
That was one thing that there.
How do you, so when I was looking at the column of foods, I think I was just thinking, oh, it's only a 4th cup of butternut squash, right? And 10 green beans. So can I have all, like, a couple of those foods with every meal? I thought I don't know why. I thought maybe it was only one of those foods with each meal.
No, that's okay. So with how this one works, so this is the unlimited, which means that you can have unlimited quantity of it. So you did right by seeing that the carrots you can have unlimited and eggplant you can have unlimited. And they say that because it tends to be the ones that are easier to digest. So you were on the money there, but you can absolutely mix them. And then so with the ones down here where it's 1 per meal, that's how much your body can be able to break down without any issues. So it can handle 1 asparagus spear, but if you have 5, then the amount, so this is where it crosses over with the FODMAP diet, which is the fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, which is pretty much big fancy names for the types of carbohydrates and the types of sugars. So they find that if you have the 1 asparagus spear, it's low FODMAP, but if you have 4, it's high FODMAP. It's to do, like, remember how last time I talked about the bucket and how full or empty your bucket is. So that can cause your OAC to overflow. But you can totally mix them around. So say for dinner, you could have maybe 2 carrots, and you could have like this much of an eggplant. You could have some kale. You could also have some rocket, and then you could also have 2 tablespoons of cauliflower. And so then I find as a way to kind of make it doable, especially if you've got so many kitties running around.
I try to be simple.
Yeah. So I find it, and even for me, like, I don't enjoy it. Like, I love cooking, but I do it as simply as possible so that it is sustainable. So the way to kind of get all those different veggies in when you're starting out, like, you could just chop them all up in one go, because then you don't need to do that every time. And then you could just grab little bits of them, and then you can just steam them all. I don't know if you've got a steamer.
Okay.
And you can just chuck them all in there and then steam it, and then you're good to go. Or you could put a whole bunch of things into a soup. I love soups, even though it's like so hot and barley all the time. Like, I love having soups.
Yeah.
And then the cooked food is easier to digest than raw food at this stage.
Right.
And then I noticed, so I'm going to go, before I go back to your food journal, any questions on this one there?
So just to clarify, the limited amount of vegetables, can I have 2 of those in a meal? kind of what I was confused about. Can I have broccoli and cauliflower? Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if I heard you right. So, okay. I just wasn't sure. I thought it was only one of those every meal. So I was like, just limiting it to that. Okay.
That's why we do coaching, so I can clarify things.
I need help.
Okay, because there's a lot of information, so making it easy as possible. Okay, so back to your food journal. So then with the bloating, like 10 minutes, and then you mentioned burping quite a bit. Oopsie.
Yes.
Oh, that's annoying. Sorry. Okay, so burping right after. So when we eat the food, it's from our mouth down our esophagus into our stomach, then small intestine, then large intestine. So if you're getting the burping happening right after, then I think about your stomach acid levels, because we need the hydrochloric acid to break down the food. And then if you're getting the burping, it's not breaking it down as efficiently, and there'll be like a little bit of excess. And then also your esophageal sphincter, which is this little muscle between your esophagus, which is your throat, and your stomach, then it can cause this one to open up again, and then it starts to come back up, and that's your burping.
Okay.
So in your supplement stash, you had the digestions, but I don't think that one had the hydrochloric acid in it.
It might. I tried it today.
Where did it go?
Might be right there. I'm down a little bit. Right. That almost. There you go.
I did too. So 200 milligrams, and then ox bile, miles. Okay, so then with this one, you've ordered your U-Biome, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you done that one yet? Has it arrived?
No, it hasn't arrived yet.
Okay. As soon as I don't want to, because it can change different things. So I want to go quite high doses on this one, but I want you to do your U-Biome first, because it can change, just to give a snapshot of where you are right now, and then we can make more specific things. So, because there's a couple of things. So with the betaine HCl, it can help to raise your stomach acid levels. But if you've got too much of a certain kind of bacteria, it can raise them as well. There's a group of bacteria called your gram-negative bacteria and your proteobacteria, and a lot of them are the inflammation-causing bacteria, and your sulfur-producing bacteria, like your D-sulfibrio, and they feed off bile. So then it's kind of, you got to be careful about so this one's got the ox bile extract in there. So if you did have higher levels of these sulfur-producing bacteria, then I would find a different supplement, because you don't want to feed them.
Okay.
But then, so what you do with the burping, so we want to increase your stomach acid levels. So before we find out about U-Biome, you could start having like a little bit of lemon juice before meals, like a tablespoon, or apple cider vinegar before meals, and that will increase your stomach acid levels.
Okay. And apple cider vinegar is okay to have, even though it's kind of like probiotics and.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
So lemon. I prefer lemon because it also helps with the liver and the gallbladder. I love lemon juice.
I love lemon. It's on all my salads and everything. So
yay.
I love it.
I don't know if you saw my little thing on Instagram. I did like a time-saving tip. So I juice a whole bunch at once, and then I freeze them in ice cube trays, and then it's easier to just like pop up more lemon water in the morning.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I should do that.
Okay. Yeah, fresh is best, but it helps make it sustainable.
Okay.
So then the way to kind of find out the levels that you need of the betaine is increasing your dose by 1 each time, and to find out when you get the burping. So the betaine hydrochloride helps you break down protein. So if you're not having protein in the meal, so protein is like your animal products, that sort of stuff. If you don't have a protein-rich meal, you don't really need it. But so do you increase your dose by 1 each time until you get the burning. So you take the supplement towards the end of your meal. So you already start eating, and then when you're almost finished, then you take your betaine and you increasing by 1 each time. And then when you feel the burning, that's your upper limit, and you drop back by 1, and that's where you stay.
Okay.
So put that in your notes. Betaine. Okay, but do your U-Biome before doing that.
Okay.
Before increasing. So then, just going to go back to. Okay, so that's the first thing that I noticed was the quantities. Symptoms, none noticed. So this was, there's like not very much fiber in there. So that's probably an indicator right there.
Yeah.
And then with the lettuce, I would probably hold off, like it's so healthy, but I'd probably hold off until your digestive system is a bit stronger.
Okay.
If you think about when you introduce your children onto solid foods, you tend to go for the very well-cooked, mushy foods. So your digestive tract is probably a little bit sore and it's probably a bit irritated and inflamed.
Okay.
So the easier foods to digest will probably go down better. That's why I always talk about soups and stews and mushed up things. So that probably helps.
All right. Okay.
It all comes, and there's no problem.
I'm at that point where I'm like, I'm hungry.
So do you like soups? Do you like stews? Or
I do. I just was kind of, because I thought I was more limited on the amount of foods I could have. I was like, well, how am I going to make a soup out of this? Am I going to just have carrots and zucchini? So, but now that I know I can put more things in, I can do that easily. So I'll just make a big batch of that. I just, it's just hard.
I know.
The first couple of weeks are the hardest. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you go through it, it'll get easier and easier and it's more part of the life. And I know.
I just want some rice,
Yeah. I kind of, how I talked about last time, like bringing down your symptoms to at least half from where you're starting, and then we can just try to introduce as much stuff as quickly as possible. And for a lot of people, rice tends to be fine. So if rice is okay, then if it causes a symptom, then we take it out.
Right.
And then, with the soups, I always cook like a massive batch, and then I just freeze them in serving sizes, and that helps to do that.
Okay.
If you feel like you're always hungry, so fat is the most satiating of the macronutrients. So your macronutrients are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. So your fats would be like in coconut oil, in eggs, in avocado, in nuts. So if you find like you are hungry half an hour after eating, maybe try increasing your fat intake. So that could look like putting coconut oil on top of your soups or stews. So that would increase the fat intake, and it delays the gastric emptying, which means it slows down how quickly it empties out of the stomach, and it can help you feel fuller for longer.
Right. Okay.
Burping right after, so I think that's with the stomach acid levels again. And then also, so ginger all day long. I love ginger. So ginger also helps with the way that the stomach releases its contents into the small intestine. So that'll help kind of get it out that way rather than that way. Okay. Did you do the transit tongue test that I put on your note?
Did. So I don't know if I put that in my, so I loaded up questions for you. I put it in the same folder.
We have a questions and observations file. I don't know if you saw it. But
I did, but I couldn't. I didn't see any way to upload it. I'm so sorry. When my husband gets home, I'll have him show me how to do it at all. Sure. I took a handful of corn on Saturday. Yeah. I did not go to the bathroom. What was it? Sunday and Monday? And I still haven't seen any corn. I'm like, did I miss it? I don't feel like I should have missed it, but I think I'm still backed up from not going to the bathroom those 2 days. Yeah. So I went. Did I go this morning? I went this morning, but I didn't see any corn.
This morning is Wednesday. Yeah. Okay. So that's a pretty slow transit time. Yeah. So we've improved the motility. And then so we haven't started the antimicrobials yet, because I want to get your body just a little bit cleaner first. So then when you are doing the antimicrobials, it's like that little thing I talk about, if you shake the rug versus just leaving it alone. So if you look at a rug that's been sitting there for 6 years, it looks a little bit dusty, a little bit clean. But when you shake it, that part where you shake it is more dangerous than if you just left it alone. So when you come to do the antimicrobial part, that's like the shaking of things, because you're killing things, you're dislodging things, you're shaking things up a little bit. So you need to make sure that your body can cope with cleaning out them at the rate that you are disturbing things. So while doing the antimicrobials, because your motility is on the slower side, I'd probably recommend getting into coffee enemas. Have you ever done
So I do coffee enemas. I love them.
Okay.
I haven't done one recently because I didn't want to mess with anything until I talked to you. But when I'm desperate and I'm like super bloated, I will do them,
Yeah.
a couple of days in a row, but it doesn't always help. It might help with stool, but sometimes I'll still be bloated.
Yeah.
So, but I do know that I should probably.
So I'm just going to put after you've done your U biome would be great. So it should be there any day now. And then you can start with those ones. So when we get to the antimicrobial stage, which will probably be in about a week or so, and then when you're doing the antimicrobials, I recommend often, it's different for different people, but like 3 times a week doing a coffee enema can really and the coffee part, because it's really detoxifying as well. And so then when you're cleaning it out at the correct rate, and you shouldn't get the die-off symptoms. So we don't really want those die-off symptoms.
Do you recommend that first week or so of doing the antimicrobials, do you suggest doing a colonic, or do you think the coffee enemas are good enough?
If you've been blocked up for a while, you can absolutely start with the colonic, because the colonic will clean out further up and it kind of gets to the outside bits. So for colonics, it sounds like you've had history with them, but just for people watching after, when you do a colonic, it's usually recommended to do 3 in the space of like a week. So the first one, you get some stuff out. The second time, you don't tend to get too much out. And the third time, you start to dislodge the stuff that's caked on the sides. If you've never done one before, that's kind of how you recommend to start doing them.
Okay. Just wanted to see.
Yeah, cool. And then I also recommend like at the end of the antimicrobials, because the way that I do the antimicrobial bits is because if it's a mess in there, then it's probably not just SIBO. So you probably got an imbalance of other bacteria, and then sometimes there's a couple of parasites. So I tend to rotate the antimicrobials, and I take care of bacteria and yeast and parasites. And so then at the end of the antimicrobials, it's really nice then to get a colonic as well, because then you're just flushing out whatever you've spent the last few weeks killing.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else I want to talk to you about so the started off bloating. This was Saturday. You did have a bowel motion the day before. So felt more bloated after eating. Kale, coconut, ginger. So this shouldn't be too much. But you're waking up, burping 1 hour, cramping 5 minutes after. So maybe that was the raw spring mix. I'll probably put my money on that one there. So the lettuce again. So I think if we include more cooked stuff, that should help.
Okay.
And prepping, wake up bloated. So yeah. I've got a post on my Instagram. I forget what the picture looks like. It's what to do in a flare. So sometimes if you're just waking up bloated, and if you've had like a reaction to something, these are like simple little lifestyle things that you can start to kind of get into. So with your motility on the slower side, a little kind of routine, if you want to start this in the morning, is drinking that liter of water, just like building up to that one, and then doing some tummy massage, so some self tummy massage. And you can also do like a couple of yoga poses, like anything that twists or cramps or like this one, just to get things moving through. And then there is YouTube videos on how to do them, so you can just kind of Google to remind yourself. But what you want to do, if you imagine a garden hose, and say there's like a rock at the end of the garden hose, if you turn on the water, it's just going to back up. So say you've got a blockage or something at the end of your colon, which is your large intestine, you want to work that through first and then kind of flush through. So you start nearby your left hip, and then you do like little micro circles, working your way back up to around the height, above the height of your belly button. And then you go backwards the other way, and then backwards, all the way to your right hip. And then you kind of flush clockwise.
Okay.
And that can help with having a bowel motion in the morning.
Okay.
Belly massage in the morning. These are all going to be in your notes as well.
Okay.
Washing with 1 liter. Okay. Wake up bloated. And so sometimes, because in the morning your digestive system will be at its emptiest, that can be a way to push things through, because if you're starting off bloated, you're probably backed up, and then you're just putting food on top of food that just hasn't really gone through. And there's also something called the vagus nerve, which is one of the longest nerves in the body. So the vagus nerve is very much connected with our parasympathetic nervous system, and it's very much connected with our motility as well.
Okay.
And there's this guy, Dr. Kristin, he's a massive thyroid guy, actually, and he talks about different ways to stimulate this vagus nerve.
Okay.
And one of the ways is gargling with water until you get tears in your eyes. It's really quite hard.
Okay.
So that when you're kind of brushing your teeth in the morning, you can do like a little roar. This stimulates your vagus nerve, and that can help with motility as well.
Really? Okay.
Another way is it's not very nice, making yourself gag, like with your toothbrush. That stimulates the vagus nerve too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And singing or humming, anything that causes a vibration in your throat will stimulate the vagus nerve.
Okay.
Cool. Heaps of stuff. So the itchy throat was new.
Yes. So every time I eat raw carrots, I'm noticing it.
Okay. But this was cooked raw carrots. There you go. It changes in chemical structure when you cook them. So cooked is definitely better.
Okay.
And then if you're getting bloating right after this, so there's very little carbohydrates there's like a little bit of carbohydrates in eggs. So if you're getting bloating right away after that, then that's another tick to improve your hydrochloric acid levels.
Okay.
So interesting. I get so excited.
I know so much.
Yeah. So cramping in lower left stomach, is this near your hip bone?
Kind of, yeah, right on the left side. Yeah.
So then what day was this? This was Sunday. And you said you took the corn on Saturday, didn't go to the bathroom on Sunday and Monday. It might have been that there was something that wanted to come out. So maybe doing like a little bit of tummy massage to that bit. And then also like heat packs or hot water bottles help to, if you place it on that area, they help to do fresh circulation and nutrients to the area, and that can help as well. Cool. I think we covered most of the things in there. Oh, cilantro. I love cilantro. Okay. Wonderful. So then if you can just do another week for me, that would be awesome. I love the way that you put that. That's great. And so then this week we're going to go into more, I want all the foods to be cooked and better. And then also aiming for the variety. So having more things in your meals and going through from there. And then making sure that you have at least 3 hours between your meals. So ideally 4 to 5 hours between your meals. And so then and this one helps with the migrating motor complex. So the migrating motor complex is like that, I think I told you last time, like that snowplow that pushes everything through your digestive tract. And so it should be passing through every 90 minutes, but every time we eat, it'll stop for 3 hours, which makes sense because we need to digest the food that we just eaten. So when you can space your meals at 4 hours apart, it gets a chance for this to push everything through. And so then you're not putting food on top of food on top of food.
Okay.
And then how I talked about with the increasing the fat can help to make it so you're not starving.
Should I hold off on snacks then?
Yes, please.
Like no snacks. Okay.
That would be. Wherever you're starting from now, like if you're having a meal and then snacking 2 hours later, you can just extend it a little bit. So maybe having your meal, having your snack 2.5 hours, and then 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
I can do it. If you tell me what to do, I'm gonna do it. I just want to make sure I know. I did have a question about eggs though, because I do on paper I have an intolerance to eggs. Yep. Do you think I should just go for them right now?
When a lot of people do have a bit of an intolerance to them. Right. So when you kind of get to your baseline, so where on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your average bloating at the moment? Where do you feel it is now?
Like a 5.
Okay.
Like 4 or 5, yeah.
I think last time you said it was 8 or something. I'm just gonna look through my notes. 4 or 5. Bloating. Maybe I didn't ask you. Okay, so that's a 4 or 5. So when your bloating kind of gets down to a 2 or a 3, that can be your baseline bloating. Okay. 5. And then when you're at this baseline, then you can experiment with new foods. So then we kind of look through what you want to introduce. So then you can like test out your eggs. You have like extra dose and see what happens. And then when you're back on your both, if you have a reaction, then you just take it out for a little bit, let your body calm down again. It usually takes 3 days for the immune system to calm back down. And then you just put it back in at a lower dose. So say you tried 3 eggs, then just put 1 egg back in and see how that feels. And same like when you come to rice. So you would start with 1/4 cup, see how that goes. If that was too much, then you just drop down to 1/8 cup. So I don't mind how small an amount you have, because to get that variety for your microbiome, a serving size of 1 teaspoon and up counts. So a teaspoon of cilantro, a teaspoon of basil. This would all count as the diversity for your plant foods for your microbiome. So then, even before we get to the point of having prebiotics and probiotics, you're already decreasing the bad stuff, increasing the good stuff with your microbiome. That's why I go on about it, and I'll talk about it every week because it's so important.
Okay. All right. I'll ask you later, but I'm curious about like soup. How do I track that? Do I need to just measure the whole all of the stuff I put in, and then?
If you're putting smaller, it depends how much you're making. So if you're putting like a head of cauliflower and a head of broccoli and some carrots and some of this, and it's making like 8 serves, then you know that per serve you're getting roughly 1/4 of a head of cauliflower, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
When I make the soup, I put in I make it like a game. It's like same with like my veggie things. I'll see how many I can get in there, and I can often get like 22 different plant foods in a soup.
Okay.
And then that makes smaller amounts of all these different things. So.
Okay, I'll try that. I'll try that this week.
Awesome. Great. And then that's all for today. So what's going to happen, so we'll sort out, so you just sent through the authorization thing, so we'll get the supplements out. I would like you to do another week of the food journal. And then as soon as the U-biome is done, then we'll increase the levels of the digestions to see how high we can go. And the energy extra will arrive as well. And we're going to do lemon before meals. The coffee enema will start after the biome, and the belly massage.
Okay. And then for the, I know I have liver love on there, and then I had 2 prescription sheets.
Yes.
Do I need to do, so one of them had the liver love with everything, and then one had the bitters.
Yes.
Do I do both of them?
You can just finish off the liver love, and then
finish the liver love. That's what you meant. Okay.
And then
I still have a whole bottle.
But I've put, I don't know how many is in your bottle.
I think there's a lot.
Well, the liver love. So what I want to do, so that you don't have horrible detox symptoms, like symptoms, I would like to support your liver as much as possible before going into the antimicrobials. So just kind of doing both will be absolutely fine.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. Awesome. And then we're going to catch up again next week, and I'll let you know the time. I didn't have it booked in.
That's fine.
Because it won't be the same time. It probably will be the same time, actually. All good.
And I feel like I am suspecting hydrogen sulfide. I'm kind of nervous that might be a problem. So, I mean, let's try the next week with all the cooked foods and see how I do. And then, then we can kind of.
And you can have both at the same time. But the good news is what I'm going to be doing with you takes care of a lot of these things at the same time. This is where like natural medicine is different to like you figure out the thing that's causing it. So with me, I don't 100% know my exact cause, because I think I just had it most of my life, and then I found out about it. But I made sure that I had the right digestive enzymes. I made sure that I worked on my stomach acid levels. I made sure that I wasn't constipated anymore. So when you resolve all the mechanisms that are broken down, it starts to just resolve itself.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know if that was something you needed to know. I've just been paying attention to smells this week, and I'm like, that's rotten smells.
And then so a lot of the time it is the hydrogen sulfide stuff, but sometimes it can be just because it's a bit dirty in there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right. Well, I will do my best this week.
Any last question?
Oh, I forgot to mention the adrenal capsules. I think, are you okay with me holding off on those? Because I emailed you because I took 4 of them and just felt really anxious yesterday. So I don't know.
The energy extra will be, it's more gentle. So
Okay.
it's like the gentle boosting up one. So when you kind of work with the adrenal tonics that I want you on, it's not, so sometimes if someone has a cup of coffee, they can be woo and then they crash. That's not what you want. Like you want to, it's like gently recharging your batteries. And it comes with all natural.
Alrighty. Maker, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'll see you.
Have a good day. Enjoy your time there.
I will.
Bye.
Bye.